What's going on, everybody? Wednesday, and that means one thing. The DFS OG's taking over here on Grinderslive, the early spot, talking some NBA. 9 games on the slate. And if you notice, a little two-man booth today. Noto won't be here with us this week. We hope all is well. He'll be back with us next week. So me and the Chop Man this week breaking down each and every game, going through some of the injuries. Hopefully we get a little bit of the news here, but being an early show, I don't think we're going to get all the news, Chop. So we're going to have some fun. I see some familiar faces out in the chat. We want to talk with you guys as well. We'll have SPK joining us here in about 15 minutes, breaking down some things from the projections. And then we'll have some fun, run through some questions with Devin at the end of the show. But let me get the Chop here. Buddy, let's get the official countdown because we got to be a lot closer here too. Because we're talking about, this Kenyon Martin chalk night and DeLon Wright chalk. I mean, that's where we're at here in the NBA season. So the official countdown to the NBA playoffs. Where are we, my man? How are we doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. And we know where we stand. We got this show and we got next week's show. And for us, that'll be it. But for those guys grinding it out, all the tough guys out there grinding it out, you got 10 days and 20 hours until that last slate on Sunday kicks off for the regular season. And then it's all over with. Then you get to play some playoff basketball, and that's so much easier and so much better than the late season, regular season. But you know what? There's also something to be said for if you're still willing to sit here and grind it out and stay by your computer and with the news, keep up with it all night long. You got a major edge. You can still do it. Some of us, we don't stay up that late though, man.
Are you calling us old, Chop? Because I'm with you, man. I used to be a 1, 2, 3 a.m. kind of guy. Now it's just getting earlier, and becoming an old man very, very quickly. So, but yeah, we will. I saw a thing in the chat. We will have Devin join us. I know he does a lot of the questions at some of the other shows. So Noto not here. Devin's a pseudo OG. So we'll bring him in to do the questions. So if you got questions about the slate, about DFS in general, strategy questions, you want to talk NBA playoffs, MVP, we'll have some extra time to kind of go into that and have some fun with some of that stuff as well. But housekeeping, first of all, guys, Rotogrinders Premium, Devin will drop a link here. You're going to have the option, if you guys haven't checked it out, to pick your specific sports here or go with the combo premium, pretty much everything in there but NASCAR. You're missing out on NASCAR, Stevie's package, well worth the price of admission. But the link in the description, $10 off your first month. That's college football, MMA, soccer, esports, or again, pick single sport. Also, MLB players got a super draft free roll tonight. If you haven't checked out Super Draft, make sure you do that. 11 games on the docket, $2,500 in free prizes here. And the top 600 are going to win some money. $500 the first. You get 5 entries per person, so you get enough shots added here and 3,000 entries in that contest. So make sure you guys head over and check out Super Draft. Devin will drop the link. There's a forum post kind of explaining everything if you want to check it out if you're playing baseball tonight. Gotta love free money, so make sure you guys take advantage of that as well. So everybody rolling in here. See our boy Brett Hartfield, Brett the Hitman, as you tabbed him there, Chop. Good to see Brett in there. Andrew Burton, some of the regulars in here, Levi Stewart, Keelan Brown. So thank you guys for stopping by and checking us out here on the early window. Talking NBA. All right, Chop, injuries. Why don't you go through a few that you're monitoring? I'll go through a few that you don't hit on, but what are the main things? We know Houston, obviously a good place to start. Missing half their team. You're our Houston guy. So what's going on there with the Rockets?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as we've had for a while now. They're trying to win games at all. So I'm not surprised that this will be a normal thing, I think, to close the season. A few random guys sitting every night just to make sure that they don't win another game or that they keep that buffer, that cushion of getting the best odds at the number 1 pick. But so Houston's a big one. I'm digging into that one. I was, we got Christian Wood ruled out and Jayshawn Tate ruled out here within the last hour. I mean, it's not rocket science, but just to dig up some numbers, I went in and tried to see what was going to happen. Jayshawn Tate's played about a little bit over 1,900 minutes this year. Vast majority of them at small forward. And then you got Christian Wood, who's labeled as a center for the vast majority of his minutes. But with Olynyk there, it's kind of like, they can go either way, power forward or center. So anyway, you got the small forward and you got a power forward / center out. Well, Kenyon Martin Jr. fits the profile of a guy who he's played a lot of small forward this year, a lot of power forward this year. He should slide in and get a lot of minutes theoretically, unless he's doing too good and they're about to beat the Sixers. Then he'll get benched. So you got to be careful. But I don't think the team's good enough to do that. So, Kenyon Martin looks really juicy there with those Rockets injuries. We know John Wall's out and some of the other guards. I'm hesitant. Well, we can talk more about it, but I'm hesitant on Kevin Porter Jr. because I think this is a rough matchup until we get Ben Simmons put on the bench for the rest of the game, which will be sometime in the third quarter, I think. But until then, that's a tough matchup. So I don't like. And then we got Sacramento over there, still going to be without their big three of De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton out for the season, and more than likely Harrison Barnes out tonight. I haven't seen anything official, but we got that. Last night it was the Buddy Hyde and DeLon Wright show, and I don't expect it to be much different tonight. So those are the two guys I got pegged on that team. So that's a pretty good thing. And then there's some other injuries out there. I don't know if you got your eyes on anything specifically.
Jaylen Brown, I think, is a big one for Boston. They're still in that hunt down at the bottom, the mess of the Eastern Conference playoffs. So obviously we know Jason Tatum gets a big bump. Some of the other guys, some more usage to go around there. Keeping an eye on the other side of that Sacramento game. And Barnes, I think, is doubtful. So it's Fox, it's Halliburton, it's Barnes all down. So you're going to see DeLon Wright going to be very heavily owned tonight. Buddy Hield, some of those guys. But Indiana has got, Malcolm Brogdon questionable. I think that's a big one on the other side of that game as well. We talked about Houston. Cleveland, another one. Garland, no Larry Nance. So you're seeing a guy like Okoro start to play well. Sexton should get a boost with that news. But that's pretty much it. I mean, we know Orlando going to be thin. We know Houston going to be thin. And the news is going to keep rolling in. It's just the way it is. With 10 days left in the NBA regular season, we're just going to continue to see guys sitting, guys getting scratched, teams tanking. So we just got to battle through it. So it's one of the, we always say it, you got to be paying attention all the way until tip-off. And if you're doing MLB and NBA all in one, you got a lot going on your plate right now. So we will do our best to navigate these waters. So, Chop, let's jump into it. Let's knock out the point guard position before we bring SBK in to talk some of these injuries, rotations, things like that. So, obviously, point guard, Russell Westbrook up at the top has just been a man on fire. I mean, gets an ideal, not a great matchup here in Milwaukee. Drew Holiday, pretty good defender, but one of those primetime games. Westbrook tends to step up and saw that massive triple-double the other night. So, hard to give anyone the ceiling that he's going to bring to the table. So you got him on the high end. You got some other big names kind of in the mid-range you mentioned. Ben Simmons in a potential blowout here. Damian Lillard was listed questionable. He's probable now in that game against Cleveland. Trae Young. And then you have the value guy like DeLon Wright and some of those names. So are we spending? Are we mixing here? Are you afraid to play DeLon Wright at this kind of ownership in tournaments? I mean, we're looking at potentially 70% here in DeLon Wright. So let's start there. What are we doing with him to start off?
I just think he's the first guy in your lineup. I'm not worried about the ownership it has. We talked about it before. So what is it going to creep up to? Let's say he was 60% owned. All right, that's a big number. If you give me a 60% owned guy in football or baseball, man, I'm scratching him out of my player pool 100% probably. Not even going to play him at all. NBA is totally different. Sometimes you got to eat that chalk and get different somewhere else. You're just not going to win tonight if he puts up another 50 plus at this price tag. So he's the first guy in my lineup. I don't think he can fail, really. It's going to be hard for him to fail. Last night, he put up that 60 spot, didn't even crack 19% usage rate. Didn't even take that many field goal. It's 15 field goal attempts. He's going to get it done. So, and then the total on this game is upwards of 240. So, yeah, you got to lock in DeLon Wright, I think. Eat that chalk, no big deal. Westbrook's the interesting one. It feels like a bad matchup because you see Milwaukee there, but first of all, matchups don't matter with him because he gets these triple doubles. No matter how tough of a defender you are, you're not going to stop him from getting the boards and getting his assists. So, and he's faced these guys twice this year. FanDuel points, he's dropped a 55 and a 72 on Milwaukee this year. So can't worry about the matchup. If you feel like you got enough money for him, I don't see him getting shut down or anything in this game. He's, like you said, he's been on fire. And this is a game they're still trying to win big time. And Milwaukee's coming in maybe a little hungover. They had a tough game last night that they won, and maybe they're feeling a little high. And maybe the defense slips a little. So my combination, I like those two guys right there. One high, one low, that gets you there at point guard. But if you're not into one of those guys, then a guy who's got a real good price tag, especially on FanDuel, is a Ja Morant. He's had some putrid games lately, but here we got Minnesota matchup tonight. This is good. And they need to win games. They need to get back in the mix. So I like that one. If you, we don't usually give a fade, but man, I'm fading me some Ben Simmons tonight. I got a feeling. We'll talk to SBK about it, but I got a feeling the minutes are going to be really reduced on some of these Sixers guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any way that Houston can keep that game close. I mean, the spread has taken off. It looks like it's 14 now. It wouldn't surprise me to see it go even higher. So yeah, it's tough to trust, Simmons and Embiid we're going to talk about later, and some of those Philly guys. So I agree with you there. Love the Morant call. Like I said, he's been kind of ho-hum here, I guess is a good way to put it. But a matchup with Minnesota, I mean, that's the kind of matchup you want. He's down to 7K here. Ownership doesn't look too out of control on him. The Orlando guys are interesting. So let's talk about them for a second. We know Marcus Smart is looming, and Cole Anthony playing well. RJ Hampton getting a lot of opportunity there as well. So those two guys in the mid-range, any interest there? I know Orlando, generally not a team we want to look at. You never know where the minutes are really going to go, but projections have these guys both playing 30 minutes tonight. So any thoughts there in the mid-range on Anthony or RJ Hampton?
Yeah, I think they still got some pretty good price tags. So I think they're in the mix. I can get behind them, especially Hampton. He's super cheap, and Cole Anthony's put up some big games. It's, Boston, who knows? I don't know how they're going to play this out here tonight. They're also coming in a little bit shorthanded, and they need to win games too. So maybe it's a pretty decent game here, but I don't mind those two guys. I don't mind taking a shot on, if you want steady, like you're not going to get through the roof on this guy, but steady, man, 40 points every night. Chris Paul, the salary doesn't creep up, but man, he delivers every night. And they can smell that number one seed now. Phoenix can. They're not going to take their foot off the gas pedal. So Chris Paul is your steady choice in that range of guys. But yeah, if you're going cheaper, the Orlando guys, DeLon Wright makes sense. Or like I said earlier, I like to split one big guy, one little guy. That's DeLon and Westbrook for me. But it's all about how you want to play it on FanDuel.
Yeah, FanDuel. I mean, that's your cash game guys right there. DeLon, Westbrook, tournaments, you want to mix it up a little bit, get away from a little bit of that ownership. But I agree with you. Basketball, a different animal than those other sports. So yes, it's a high ownership percentage, but it's almost like what are 30% of the people doing not playing DeLon Wright tonight? I don't know who else is going to score for that team. So one other team I want to hit on while we're here and we wait for SBK is Denver. We know Jamal Murray's out. We know Monte Morris is out. We also have Will Barton out. So there's going to be some guard production to go around. So Campazzo, dare I say Austin Rivers here, and another kind of combo that are looking to play big minutes. I'm less interested there than the Orlando guys. What say you on the Denver guys?
I'm less interested than the Orlando guys, but Campazzo still with $5,500 price tag on FanDuel is really cheap considering what he's done lately. So, Denver, New York, when you're looking for games this time of year, you're looking for both teams kind of need to win, really want to win, and showing you a desire to win. And that's been New York for sure, man. They'll run their guys 40 minutes a night regardless here. So we got that. And Denver's still trying to fight off for playoff position there. So, theoretically, we should get these guys full run. And so Campazzo's in the mix. I don't mind that at all. And if that's GPP stuff, though, you're not playing that guy in cash, like you said. Our cash guys are set in stone. For GPPs, he's in the mix. Another guy we didn't even cover in the mix for GPPs. You got to wait to make sure he plays. But Damian Lillard has finally kind of gotten back on track now. He's dropped 50-plus fantasy in each of the last 3 games. So he's back on track. They're still trying to win. They can actually smell not being in that play-in game now. Like, they don't want to be in there, and they can see themselves sneaking up to not get in there. So, but he's got that big, asterisk by his name for an injury tonight, questionable tag. So, if he's
playing, they got him probable. So generally probable means they're going. So
that's great for us, for tournaments, because people see that little Salvation Army thing sign next to him and they think they don't want to play him. Well, you know what? If he drops a 50 and Westbrook drops a 55, you've only lost a few points and you've saved a couple grand in salary. That could be a very good GPP. So I like Damian Lillard in GPPs to get off of Westbrook if that's your motivation for less ownership.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's the kind of guy that can give you the similar output. I mean, he's not going to go out there and get those massive triple doubles like Westbrook, but close enough. And at a fraction of the ownership, you just hope Cleveland can keep this game close and competitive. And they've done that in some games recently. So I like that call as well. All right, SPK should be jumping on here shortly, Chop. So let's go to the shooting guard position. This one not as clear cut as point guard. Again, you're going to see some Terrence Davis eating up some ownership. Jordan Clarkson with Conley and Mitchell out, a guy that I like a lot tonight, but looks like a spot we can go cheap on. I mean, whether it's Avery Bradley, Armani Brooks, two Houston guys on the cheap. Grayson Allen still playing decent minutes here, or back to the high end with guys like Sexton, Karis LeVert if Brogdon sits. So shooting guard, again, not quite as many options as we have a point guard, but I think there's a lot of ways you can go at this position. How are you handling here tonight?
Yeah, I think I'm living in that mid range right now, and that being CJ McCollum, D'Angelo Russell, and Jordan Clarkson standing out for me. The cheap guys, they're okay, man. I guess like it's all about making a GPP team, and if you feel like you can get the two cheap guys over here and then spend up with Westbrook and Lillard, that's always a thought, or spin up on two high-powered power forwards or something. That's fine. I like the mid-range though right here. McCollum, Russell, Clarkson are the three guys I've got pegged out for what I want to do tonight. And especially if Damian Lillard he's going to play, but what if he's a little bit like doesn't want to give a full throttle tonight? And McCollum really, who's been playing good anyway, I could get there. D'Angelo Russell price still isn't risen yet enough compared to what I think he can do here against Memphis. Minnesota's actually playing really good themselves as a team here lately. It's kind of reflected in his numbers are up for the last couple of weeks. They've been winning games, so he's in the mix. And then Jordan Clarkson, I don't think he's reached nearly the potential we thought he was going to have when we knew Mitchell and Conley and those guys were out. He hadn't got there yet, but it's going to happen. And tonight against San Antonio could very well be that time. San Antonio is not really – they're a weird team. They're kind of like they're resting guys every other night for some reason. Like they don't – like Pop doesn't care about the regular season. I get it, but all that does is it brings down the team defense just that much more. So I can definitely get behind some Jordan Clarkson tonight and a big breakout game coming eventually.
All right, we got SPK, so we'll bring him in here and we'll go back to the shooting guard position afterward. SPK, just a two-man booth today. You don't got to deal with Notorious. So just Chop and I here chopping it up mainly about teams like Houston missing half their team. That Sacramento, Indiana game. Obviously, a lot of pieces missing there. Boston, Orlando. It's kind of the tail of the tape here for late season NBA. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you. What injuries are really sticking out? And most importantly, how we doing, my man?
Doing well. We we're down. We got the rest of this week and then next week, and we're pretty much to the playoffs. So
10 days according to the countdown here.
Yeah, light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, sir.
So I guess to start on the Houston side, one guy who I am very interested in, looks like I'm not alone, is KJ Martin Jr. We have him projected for 37 minutes right now, 3.9K on DraftKings. He had, even in his last two, he played 32 minutes, 33, pretty decent fantasy performances in both, given where he's priced now. So yeah, definitely interested in him on that side. I think you're probably going to see big minutes out of Kevin Porter, Kelly Olynyk. Obviously no Christian Wood there. Jayshawn Tate also not expected to play. So just kind of a lot of available, a lot of, minutes open in that front court. If the game stays close, I think Olynyk is still kind of interesting. 7.5K. We've projected for a shade under 44 DraftKings points. So I do think he's an option. But yeah, it's going to be kind of a matter of can they keep that one even remotely competitive or not with, not many bodies. The Sacramento Indiana game, I do think is a very interesting kind of situation. I am going to be looking to get on Indiana -6.5 if Brogdon does play. I still feel like Lamb and Batadze are probably closer to doubtful. They've been questionable for what feels like forever. Brogdon, I think, just missed those last two. So I think a chance we get him back. Edmund Sumner also questionable. So if all those guys sit, could open up some options on the wing. I think Karis LeVert becomes a little bit more appealing. Same with O'Shea Brissett, TJ McConnell. I think McConnell would probably be the guy that would get the biggest bump in terms of kind of relative to where he is now. And then, yeah, on the Sacramento side, Chop, Buddy Hield did not get there last night, but still a very healthy fantasy performance, 45 fantasy points. 5 of 16 from the field. That'll kind of do it. But yeah, a lot of options on the Sacramento side. DeLon Wright, massive minutes the other night. Looks, no reason why you expect him not to do that here again. Marvin Bagley, a little bit kind of in check. He had those 5 fouls, about 31 minutes. He also shot the ball like shit from the field, 5 of 15. So, if he gets that efficiency back up, I think he's kind of another appealing target. And then Terrence Davis played kind of a boatload of minutes off the bench. Not a safe option by any means, played a shade under 31 minutes, but I do think he's on the radar as well.
Let's talk ownership real quick. And you brought up some of the names, and I know you're part of building these projections. So do you worry about playing a 70% DeLon Wright in tournaments? Kenyon Martin could be approaching that same number, maybe 50 to 60% owned. So just real quick, your thoughts for the people on what do you do with these guys in tournaments? They're going to be that highly owned, because me and Chop seem to agree that it's still all systems go with these guys. Hard to see them not producing here tonight with the way those teams are set up with the injuries right now.
Yeah, I think situations like these, it's always kind of a situation by situation thing. I think the Houston thing is a great example of an all systems go type of situation. Like we have eight bodies projected in their rotation right now. KJ Martin's a very young player who they should kind of want to see what they have in him. So I think these guys that in these types of situations where there's really no reason to expect them, why would Houston not want to give him run here? So I think there's no real reason, despite the high projection in terms of minutes and fantasy points and the high likelihood that he's popular, there's, I'm not sure really what would have to happen in order, probably an injury or very early foul trouble in order for him to kind of not play an allotment of minutes that would make him viable at this salary. And then, yeah, even Sacramento, they kind of don't have much. I guess you could make the argument that for Wright, I think there's more of an argument to fade Wright than there is to fade Martin, probably, just given that Wright did just play 36 minutes last night. The Kings do have other guys there. They have Kyle Guy they could use. They have, Jameis Ramsey's a guard at the end of the bench that maybe they want to see what they have in those guys on a back-to-back and kind of a lost situation. But, yeah, so I think maybe Wright, there is some merit to it. But, yeah, given where we have him at now, he's a pretty tough fade in my book, I think.
All right, Chop, what do you got for SBK here tonight?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I was curious about is we've talked about it a little bit before, but I just want to rehash it a little bit. So we got the Philadelphia 76ers with a 14.5-point spread right now. It's risen since the injury update. And I know you're probably going to dock them a couple of minutes because of a blowout, but how does that work? Logically, we can look at it and go, wow, man, you just can't see these guys playing into the fourth quarter, these starters for Philadelphia. And Houston shouldn't be a problem, but are you going back and looking at the rotation and saying, well, Ben Simmons comes out of the game for the last time at the end of the third quarter. So theoretically, if it's a 25-point game, he shouldn't be back in the game ever. Is that how it works, or what's the thought process on the projection scenes behind looking at this 14.5-point spread and a possible blowout?
Yeah, it doesn't get that deep. I'm not trying to look at rotations and, if the game's out of hand at the 8-minute mark, who's not going to come back. Some of those things you can look at them and I think, to get the day of it ends up being different. So those things aren't always kind of the same. But, I pretty much dock these guys each a minute. Typically in a game that was at a, if it was Philly Milwaukee or Philly Brooklyn, we'd have Embiid probably at 34, 35, Simmons and Harris at 35, 36. They're a shade below that now. So that's kind of as much as I can really do. It's, if this game does stay close and they do play normal allotment of minutes, which is always the counter argument there, then, the ceiling obviously is probably even higher than it is in a typical spot. So, yeah, you can't really do a whole lot. I'm not going to protect these guys for 30 minutes. I think that's probably, kind of too much of an overcorrection. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of docking them a minute, and then beyond that, I don't try to dig too deep into the this guy sits at the 8-minute mark and he's not going to come back. That's a little bit too involved for me.
Oh, fair enough, man.
Chop, anything else for SPK?
No, man. I just wanted to reconfirm to him. I had the frozen grapes. They were good. You ought to try somebody.
Did you try the
Dude,
frozen
I'll
grapes?
have to lose. I'll have to lose a string of bets in order for probably two
He
Chop
hates
in order
the
for that to
fruit.
happen.
This guy hates the fruit. I did do the frozen grapes. They were good, man. I give the chat much credit. They were really good.
Now, speaking of frozen, I got to ask you, SPK, while we got you here, let's just pretend. Let's pretend that you don't know Chop, and he's this big celebrity, multimillionaire, and you're shopping at ShopRite in the frozen food section, and maybe you're shopping for grapes. Who knows what you're shopping for? But there he is. You meet Chop, and hey, man, how you doing? And you strike up a friendship. And then a few short months later, you come back and you say, hey, do you remember me? My name's SPK. My name's Bert, whatever your name may be. And Chop has no recollection of who you are. I mean, I just want to know how that would make you feel.
I mean, it sounds like it's something a big time guy would do. Somebody who's, it sounds like a big time guy move right there. Did that really happen in real life?
Yeah, our good friend Bert Stevens.
Where's Bert Stevens at?
Bert
Stevens, he needs to.
That sounds like a made up. I mean, that just sounds like a made up name.
Bert, they're tarnishing my reputation. Bert, get in here and tell them I remember you.
So yeah, I agree though. You got big time. So it's if Bert's I don't know. Bert's not been back with us. So I don't know. He might be.
Bert was here the other day for my show with Will. He was here. He's a nice guy. We shoot the shit all the time, me and Bert.
There you go, in the frozen food section, shopping for them grapes.
Chop, congratulations on getting recognized in the grocery store, though. That's excellent. That's next level.
That's big time. You've arrived when you get spotted at ShopRite and say, hey, there's Chop. I can just see. It's like that Aaron Rodgers commercial. Rodgers! I could see him chasing you down, Chop. But SPK, anything else here before we let you get out of here and get back to work?
No, I mean, I didn't know ShopRites were even still open anymore. So that's something that new I learned today. But yeah, other than that, that's it, guys. Good luck. And I'll talk to you next week, probably for the last time this season.
Yes, sir. One more week to go, and then playoffs. Then we can really talk some NBA and have some fun with it. SPK, appreciate it, buddy. Good luck tonight, and we'll chat again next week.
Yep. See you, boys.
See ya. Chop, any words for Bert before we move on?
Bert's not here today. I can't.
He's lurking somewhere.
Somebody needs to get. Oh no! If he was lurking, he'd be in here. He'd be in here saying hi. Bert wouldn't one up me like that, man.
Maybe too early for Bert. We are in the early window here. A lot of people still cycling in. Maybe it's he's still at work. So, or maybe he's still shopping and maybe waiting for you to another encounter. Maybe he's just hanging out at the shop, right? But shooting guard, I think we covered it pretty well. I agreed with a lot of the names that you brought up. Clarkson probably being my favorite. I know we had a question about Okoro. Are you a believer in Okoro? Because basically known as a defensive guy and been a lot more aggressive offensively here. We have no Garland. We have no Nance. So it can't be all Colin Sexton here. Any interest there in Isaac Okoro? I forgot who asked the question, but coming off that huge game, are we buying it or not?
The price tag is still really low. I mean, let me look up the draft. 4,200 on FanDuel, phenomenal. Price tag on only 4,300 on DraftKings. So it's not that I'm buying another big performance like that. That was like an overtime game and all kinds of stuff. But it's not the first 35 plus point game he's had this year. So he's got it in him. He's getting the chance right now. So at this price tag, sure. I mean, if you feel like, let's go real cheap at small forward and then spend up somewhere else to be different instead of some of the other value, I'm down with that. I don't mind. I don't buy into the guy's going to deliver 40 points again, but he doesn't have to at this price tag.
Yeah, I think we got some other interesting options, high end, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. I think guys you can play, you can find some savings elsewhere. That might make you a little bit different. I don't think those guys are going to be heavily owned at this position. So kind of an ugly position, but one that you can be very flexible and go a lot of different ways and build your lineups a couple different ways. But Clarkson probably being my favorite here. as well. So let's go to the shooting guard or the small forward position next. Looks like another spot in the mid-range. We have the Utah guys again without Mitchell and Conley. We know Ingles does some more ball handling. Bogdanovich has been solid. We just talked about Cleveland. Your boy Chetty Osman is intriguing here. Obviously got to talk about Buddy Hield, Kevin Porter, Michael Porter Jr. been on fire. So it's another very interesting position. And I think the mid-range is where I want to live here. What about yourself?
Yeah, all those names sound good. On the different sites or with the different pricing, like on DraftKings, where you only need one of these guys, if that's all you wanted. And I'm looking at the price tags. I'm probably the first guy I'm looking at is Joe Ingles. Not saying I'm going to lock him in there, but the first guy I'm looking at is Joe Ingles because he's as cheap as just about anybody at this position. Chetty Osman's 500 cheaper. He's okay, but I'd rather have Ingles than his teammate Bogdanovich, and they're about the same price tag. So he's the first guy I'm looking at. But on FanDuel, where you got to have two of them, and the prices are a little bit different, I'm probably locking in Buddy Hyde because I need two of these guys. I want one of them to be Buddy Hyde. I just think that, again, similar to what DeLon Wright did, like he put up a monster 42-plus point game last night, only shot like less than 30%, only took 16 shot attempts, only had about a 20% usage. He did it with all kinds of other things going on. So big total, he's the first guy I'm locking in. So other than Hyde and Ingles, depending on what site, I don't mind Middleton because I do think that we're going to get a little bit less Giannis tonight. And I wouldn't even be surprised if one of these big three on Milwaukee just goes ahead and takes a seat tonight and doesn't even play. Just maybe because that's two rough games in a row there with Jersey. So Middleton's on the mix, and Michael Porter Jr. has been really phenomenal. And it's the one game on the board I can look at and say Denver, New York should come down to the wire. So I'm a Michael Porter Jr. fan tonight.
Yeah, that game will definitely be intriguing. You're going to see more of that game when we go into our favorite betting picks, as always, at the end of the show. So, chat, we need your betting picks. It can be totals. It can be spreads. You guys are closing the gap here. So we'll look at those standings, and we will have some sort of prize. If the chat beats any of us, we're going to have some sort of prize to give away. So we're still working it out. I know we only got 1 week left to come up with something, but we will have something. So it's getting tight. So chat, you need to come together, find some plays that you guys like together, and put them in the chat there, and we'll log them for you in our best bet segment towards the end of the show. So any other guy? I think we covered a lot of guys at this position. Kevin Porter is my favorite. I know there's concerns there, but who else is going to score for them? I mean, I'm less worried about the matchup than he's going to take an absolute ton of shots, whether they're getting blown out or not. He's still going to be out there chucking. So him and Hield, probably my two favorites, along with the Utah guys. But this position is intriguing, but mid-range is really where I want to live here at small forward. So moving on to power forward, Chop, obviously Kenyon Martin, the big name. Marvin Bagley should get some ownership here. Giannis, the high end spend, but the guys I really like here, I don't know that I want Giannis. If I'm going high end, I really like Sabonis, especially if Brogdon is out. I mean, he's going to be in control of that offense. It's going to be him and LeVert. And I really like Jason Tatum without Jaylen Brown. And I think with all the savings we have at all the other positions, I don't want to leave out Julius Randle either. I think you can make a case for him, and I don't think you're going to see much ownership there. But I think this is a spot I want to spend some money on. If you don't want to go with that Kenyon Martin ownership, I think this is the way to get different and spend up on some of these guys tonight.
Yeah, this is where your studs are. This is where you got a bunch of them. You mentioned them. If you believe Giannis is going to play and play well tonight, then he's there. Sabonis has been great. I'm a little worried about the blowout against Sacramento. That's going to be a rough game for Sacramento coming in here and trying to win this game. Tatum, though, without Jaylen Brown, Tatum is in the mix. And you said Julius Randle. I love Julius. Julius is going to play 40 minutes, and he's going to do what he does. So this is definitely a spin-up spot. If you want to get like chalky Marvin Bagley, man, I can fade chalky Marvin Bagley. That's no big deal. And there's no – I know SBK is really high on Kenyon Martin, and so am I, but there's no reason why he's going to go out there and deliver this monster game. He can go out there and just very well play a lot of minutes and still drop 30 fantasy points. That's not going to kill you if you fade that. So I can get behind fading those two guys, which are going to be the ultra chalk, and going with the higher, because we got enough guys at the other positions that we can spin down on. So we can get really good here with two good power forwards on FanDuel. That'll make us different right there. Like if I play in Sabonis, Tatum, and Randall together, I'm different, man. I'm different because I got to think about 90% of the lineups either Bagley or Kenyon Martin Jr. So I'm automatically going to be different if I spend up big time here. And my choice would be Tatum and Randall because I think they got the fewest obstacles in their way. Less back-to-back like Giannis and no blowout factor like Sabonis.
Yeah, it's Tatum and Sabonis for me. I definitely worry about that if Sacramento can't stay in the game. But I feel better about the DeLon Wright ownership than I do about the Martin ownership. So it's easier to get away from it at this position. And like you said, make yourself different. I think you're going to see a lot of Martin Bagley lineups, people spending that money on Westbrook, the center position where we're going to get to right now. So I like going different here at power forward. So let's open up center. We have Jokic, we have Karl Anthony Towns, we have Embiid, all on the high end as spends. We also have some value guys. We've seen Mo Bamba come alive for the Magic. Robert Williams with Tristan Thompson out. Rashawn Holmes in that Sacramento game like we talked about. So a lot of ways that you can go here. Olynyk, we barely hit on him yet, but he's going to have to play a ton of minutes here, even against Embiid. I don't hate that. So are you spending? Are you saving? Are you hitting this middle ground with a guy Olynyk tonight?
Yeah, I think I want to spend here. At the very least, go into the high mid-range, meaning a Rudy Gobert. Gobert is probably one of my favorites at this position. It's a good matchup, and you got all those guys out. He's just going to deliver a good, solid game tonight. Probably get matched up a lot against another big 7-footer and Jakob Poeltl, so that's good for his game to be on the court a lot. So Gobert. I think Olynyk's very interesting. It's a tough matchup, but he's going to get a lot of minutes. He could give Embiid a lot of problems hanging out by the three-point line. Now he's going to get run over on defense. Let's put it like that. But that's not. Who cares? You're not rostering Olynyk for defensive fantasy points. You want him to get high and stroke those three-pointers. Nurkic is really cheap. I think Nurkic is jumping off the charts there as a pretty good play. And with Tristan Thompson ruled out, maybe we get that big electric Robert Williams game again. He hasn't been on his game lately because everybody's been back and healthy, but Tristan being out may catapult Robert Williams, who went back to being very cheap. He may be the guy. So I'm more likely to start with Gobert and work my way down than I am to go with the high price guys. I just think there's questions there too that I like. Jokic, that's a tough matchup against the Knicks. Aren't Embiid, I really, really feel like Simmons and Embiid don't step foot in the fourth quarter on the court. So that worries me a lot. But, Embiid could also drop 70 in three quarters. You never know. But there's question marks up top. So I'm starting with Gobert and working my way down.
Yeah, I think we're a similar mindset at this position. I mean, Jokic is always in play, but you don't love that matchup. Sure, he can get his numbers, but I think there's better options, a little bit cheater. Embiid, like you said, the blowout. I think what's happening is that people are loading up on Houston and they feel like they have to have a Philadelphia guy, which makes sense. But I think some of those Houston guys can get there regardless. They're a lot cheaper. They're going to play the minutes. If this gets out of hand, Embiid does not. So I really like Olynyk. I love the Williams call. He's shown us he can have some big games. A matchup with Orlando, certainly not going to temper any of that. And Nurk, like you said, too cheap. So a lot of ways you can go here if you want to go cheap, you want to spend up, or you want to hit that mid-range. So we love that when you have those different options. So now we're going to go to our best bets here of the night. Noto was kind enough to send us in his best bets, and he's been on a little bit of he turned it around a little bit last week. So 2-1, holding up the rear though. So 22 and 26 for the season. So I'll rattle his off real quick. Then we'll go to you, Chop. He's going with his hometown Utah Jazz -7.5. Likes the Pacers. Got them at 5.5. Must have been a early morning bet for Noto. And as always, kind of his staple bet is the Knicks under. So he's going under 215 in New York and Denver, that game we just talked about. So Noto going to turn it around here. So I think those are our three pretty good picks. Chop, where's your record at? Let's see. You are tied with the chat here, 25 and 23. So it's a big pivotal week here entering next week. Chop, you got to go 3-0 here. So give them some winners. Who you got?
Well, the chat might forfeit if they don't get me some bets in here by the end of the show here.
Go, chat. We need your bets.
You need to drop it. I'm only seeing one real legit bet. I don't want to put you guys down for a prop bet. All right, we haven't done that this year. It's kind of, but I will if I have to. But get the bets in, guys, or else I'm gonna have to give you guys losses for those. But for me, I'm gonna start off with Washington plus the 7. They're playing real good, and just looking at the opponent here tonight, coming off of a back-to-back tough game. I'm going to go Washington plus 7. Hope they hang in there. Pacers minus 6.5. I feel like this game has blowout potential with Sacramento being a back-to-back and traveling and all that good stuff. So give me the Pacers minus 6.5. And I got the 76ers at minus 13 earlier in the day before the Jayshawn Tate, Christian Wood news. 13 is a lot of points, but yeah, man, the way Houston's been playing, that could very well be 25-point game tonight. So I'm going 76ers minus 13.
I guess the chat's going to forfeit, or they're sleeping on us or something here. So they were making a run, and no one wants to step up and be bold. Normally we have the guys with the cap locks and the lock of the century and the guaranteed winners here. There's a money line bet coming in. I mean, if that's how they want to roll, that's how they're going to roll. So chat, you got about a minute and a half while I run through my bets. If you want your voice heard, you want to represent the chat in the contest, got to get it going here. Get some bets in that chat. So mine, I'm going to give you one extra bet. I had a push last week, so to even up the numbers, I'm going to give you a bonus bet here. And if this was a real contest, Chop, I would have played the Pacers. I like Indiana. Could have played them for the block and done that, but we're not going to do any of that. I'm just going to give you some picks straight away here, not trying to win the contest, but to try to give the people some more winners. So I'm going to go with the Knicks plus the 4. I think that's going to be a very good game. There's not a team in the league playing better right now than the New York Knicks. So I know it's a tough game with Denver, but I think it's going to be close. So I'll gladly take the 4 points there. We keep talking about Sacramento, Indiana. I don't know where Sacramento's going to get enough offense to take this game over a 240-point total. I know these Pacers games have been ridiculous lately, but I think the Kings are going to struggle to hold up their end of the bargain. So you guys win Indiana. I'm going to attack it a different way and go under that number. I like Boston minus the 10, even without Jaylen Brown here. Orlando, it's just a team playing backups, basically. So Boston should be able to roll here. And I like Memphis, a team not playing great. Minnesota is playing with some confidence here, but I think Ja gets it going. I think Memphis wins this one pretty handily, so I'll go Memphis minus the 4. So do we have some consensus here from the chat yet, Chop?
We got a lot of action now since we did that. Lots of action.
Coming in. Here we go.
All right, let's see here. Let's go. Let's give them first one I definitely saw was Phoenix minus 1. So we'll definitely put Phoenix minus 1 in there for them. I saw conflicting on Washington, Milwaukee point spread. So somebody did say the over on Washington. So let's give them the over on Washington and Milwaukee tonight. And man, they did say there's some New York Knicks love out there. Let's give them the New York Knicks with this. I'm not going to give you guys money lines. That's not fair to you as an underdog.
Well, I got New York, so if they're not going to be able to catch up if they match my New York bet.
Yeah. Let's give it.
I'm going to be nice here and not allow them.
Problem is, they also wanted some.
But they could catch you.
All right, you know what?
If that's what they want, they could still catch you or surpass you in Noto.
You know what? Let's give them the Milwaukee. I did see. I think the Washington Wizards were 1, but they also said Milwaukee with the spread. Let's give them Milwaukee minus 3.5.
All right. There we go. That's our best bets for the night. So we'll keep tracking that and come back next week. And a big week coming next week. So excited. So hopefully you guys get some winners. And make sure you go check out scoresandodds.com. A lot of great betting information over there. Premium picks, things like that. So let's bring Devin in. Devin, you ready? We got about, 5 minutes left. We got a baseball show coming up after us. So we want to knock out some of these questions for the chat. So Devin, come on in, my man.
What's up, guys? How's hump day going along?
Hump day is going well.
Yeah, no frozen grapes, but
yeah, no Bert Stevens is a little disappointing.
Got big time there, Chop.
But it's
hate to
we
see
roll
it.
on without him.
All right, well, we got a couple of QQs saved up. You guys want to do one of you FanDuel, one of you DK?
Sure. Chop, which one do you want?
I mean, you honestly, with 5 minutes, you can just kind of rapid fire.
This is
one
true.
back
We
and
should
forth.
probably just go quick. Yeah. So
Just go one him, one me, and go back and
all
forth.
right, we'll start with Chop. Levi, DK Smallfield, GPP, Campazzo, or Hampton, or both/neither.
I'm going to lean towards Hampton.
All right. Beer Keelan wants to know, this is a FanDuel After Hours special. Denver versus Knicks, Utah versus Spurs. What are your favorite guys? And maybe like a core out of those two games.
Denver versus Knicks. I really like Julius Randle in that game. What was the other game?
The Utah Spurs.
Utah, I like Clarkson a lot. Without Mitchell and Conley, he's going to have to be a spark. So those small forwards are interesting, Ingles, Bogdanovich, but I'll go Clarkson there. So that would be my core, those three, and Randall on the other side.
So let me get you to rank. Bullock, Burks, Ingles, Clarkson, DDR.
Clarkson, Ingles, and not really on any of the other guys, to be honest.
Fair enough. Andrew, looking for a narrative chat. What do you guys think about the LBJQ today? What would he rather do? Have the 3-1 comeback against Golden State and 4 rings, or 6 rings, no 3-1 comeback?
6 rings for sure. He's competing with Jordan. I mean, you know I love narratives, so this is right up my alley. But he's got to have those rings. So the comeback was great, but to me, it's got to be the rings.
I can see that. All right, Chop Unicorn wants to know, what are your thoughts on Morant versus Minnesota? Any job?
Love it. I think he's ready to snap out of that little funk he's in and have a big game tonight.
Nice. All right, Beer. Andrew wants to know thoughts on TJ McConnell with the Brogdon Q, and maybe throw in your thoughts with Booker against Atlanta as well.
Love McConnell. If Brogdon's out, I think that's a phenomenal play. Get you off some of the other highly owned people there, so no doubt. And I do like Booker. We kind of mentioned him at the end of the shooting guard position, but I think he's a good way to go. I don't see a lot of ownership there either.
All right, don't forget to hit that like button if we get your question. Chop, coming to you, Cameron Payne. Any DK in any in DK tournament?
No, I don't. I'm not on him. He's not. He didn't make my player pool, so I guess I'm not on him very much.
No campaign train. Keelan wants to know, Beer, FanDuel, would you play DDR? I think we kind of touched on that one. You're not playing him that much, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's all right. I'm not going to say don't play him, just not one of my favorite plays tonight.
All right, we'll give you another one, Beer. This one comes from Morningwood. Since Jacoby O'Shea Brissett doesn't shoot a lot, do you give Bagley a boost as far as staying out of foul trouble?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, Bagley, it's going to have to do a lot offensively. So it's just with the injuries are the bigger boost to me.
All right, Chop, we keep giving you the ugly ones. Slow-mo showing up in the Opto. Are you drinking that Kool-Aid?
Oh, boy.
I'd have to see the final injury report on that team. As of right now, I'm not on him right now, no.
All right, another ugly one for you, Beer. Dante DiVincenzo. It's when you know we're in May NBA.
And that's my team, and I should be a lot more enthusiastic about Dante DiVincenzo, but too many other options tonight. I'm going to pass.
All right. Chop Morningwood wants to know the $1,200 difference on DK, Chetty or Ingles?
I think I'm still on Ingles, even on DK over Chetty. Chetty, I just think there's a bad game coming real soon for him.
Don't hate on Chetty. Come on.
It's Cheddar Bob. I like Cheddar Bob, but
Cheddar
I just
Bob.
think I think Ingles. Let's put it. I think Ingles actually is going to have a really good game here. I think so. 1,200 is not that big of a deal tonight.
All right. Well, we got just about a minute left, so we'll end with maybe Joseph calling Sabonis a lock tonight. You guys agree?
I love it. Chop's worried about it. I understand. Sacramento, I just said, can they do their part of it? But Indiana might score 150, and Sabonis is going to be a big part of it. So I'm a big fan tonight. Lock, maybe a bit strong, but he is one of my favorite plays at that position.
All right. Don't forget about the Super Draft free roll. I'll drop the forum link in chat again. Pierre, you want to take us home?
Yep. Yeah. Guys, take advantage. Free money's free money. Check out Super Draft for sure. Make sure you guys get signed up for Rotogrinders Premium. Make sure you check out scoresandodds.com. And we appreciate you stopping in and checking it out, hanging out here on the early show. We got a baseball show coming up next in about 10 minutes. Notorious will be back with us next week. Chop, any final words for the people before we get out of here?
One more show left for us this year.
Sir.
Unbelievable. It's winding down. It's been a good journey, though, guys. We've been having some fun.
Absolutely. And we got football right around the corner. So I'm assuming we'll be back talking football. The draft
before
is
we
in the
know
books,
it.
But Devin, thank you, my man, for joining us and helping on the chat. Chat, thank you. As always, great interaction with you guys. Great questions. And hopefully we helped you out. and building some good lineups tonight. So for Devin, for Chop, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck, guys. We will see you next week. You're back in the Fantasy Bar. Big slate of games on Wednesday, and we're here with 6 of my favorite plays, including some of my favorite big boppers on FanDuel and DraftKings. My favorite value play over on DK tonight, a starting pitcher with huge upside, I think goes overlooked, and an old friend returns to the Beast of the Night spot. Who is it? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Wednesday edition Beers Daily Fantasy Six Pack. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you, as always, for stopping by here and hanging out in the Fantasy Bar. Got 6 more plays fresh off the tap for you. 5 hitters and 1 pitcher on FanDuel and DraftKings. Now, before we get into the plays for Wednesday, guys, as always, do me a favor. Click that thumbs up button. That's the tip jar here in the Fantasy Bar. Appreciate that. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get notified when these videos are coming out. Still doing baseball and basketball videos. NBA folks, haven't forgot about you. We'll be back on Friday with another NBA video. But click that notifications. Get notified when the videos are coming out. Lastly, sports bettors out there, if you haven't tried it yet, what are you waiting on? The link is in the description of the video. Go check out scoresandodds.com/beer for all of your sports betting needs. You can check lines across so many different sports books, analytics, premium picks across all the major sports. Just tons of information there, guys. Go check it out today. There's weekly subscriptions, monthly, or the best deal. Pay for the entire year. You're going to love what you see over at scoresandodds.com/beer. All right, let's get into it. We got a lot of games to break down, and we've narrowed it down to 6 of my favorite plays. So we're going to start on the infield here. Spent some money on Trey Turner of the Nationals. So Turner absolutely been on fire here of late. 4 multi-hit games now for him over the last 6. And we know this is a guy that has really done damage against left-handed pitching. In fact, one of the better hitters we have, in my opinion, in the league against lefties, putting up a WOBA over 500 over the last 2 seasons. So a nice sample size there. But it's not just the WOBA. You get power as well. A huge 380 ISO for him against left-handed pitching. Also hits the fastball very well. Another number, WOBA over 500, ISO over 400. Max Fried, he's going to use that pitch 40% of the time against right-handed pitching. So Fried, a decent pitcher. Not a guy I normally want to go out of my way against. Probably not a guy I'm stacking against. A lot of times we get individual picks in the 6-pack, and it represents a team I want to stack up. Turner may be more of a one-off play for me here, but Fried does allow some hard contact at 35%. And for the BVP crowd out there, limited sample here, but Turner 6 of 13 with a home run against Fried. Love this spot here on both sites here for Trey Turner leading us off in today's 6-pack. All right, on to our next pick here. Let's go to the outfield. Another hitter I'm very high on for this season, but especially for tonight, outfielder Ramon Laureano of the A's. Now, as we talked about, Turner on fire with the bat, Laureano on fire with the power. Has gone yard in 3 of the last 4 games here, and it's kind of what we can expect from this kid. Has really turned it up and turned up the heat against left-handed pitching this season. 324 ISO. WOBA sitting at 441. Another guy that hits fastballs extremely well. We know we're going to get a ton of those out of Robbie Ray. We're talking about a 521 WOBA and ISO over 400 against fastballs. Robbie Ray is going to give you that pitch 60% of the time against right-handed hitters. And we know Robbie Ray. I love the talent Robbie Ray does give you some upside when you use him in your starting pitcher position. But opposing bats gives up a lot of power, a lot of home runs, a lot of fly balls, that lethal mix that we always talk about here. Robbie Ray fits the bill. 48% fly ball rate, 47% hard contact rate, a WOBA over 380, an ISO over 270. I could go on and on and on here. The point is, this is a great matchup for a power hitter, especially one like Laureano, who's just locked in right now. Get him in those lineups under 5K on DK and a nice $3,500 price point over on FanDuel. All right, I promised you a tremendous value play over on DraftKings, and that's outfielder Lorenzo Cain of Milwaukee. So when you see a guy at the exact same price on both FanDuel and DraftKings, that means he's one of the best value plays on DraftKings, and that's what we have here tonight with Locane at 3,200. Now, I know it's been a slow start to the season, but the power has still been there, and the power against righties been there as well over the last couple seasons. 262, that ISO in this righty on righty matchup, and a nice 45% hard contact rate as well. So if we peel the onion back a little bit, we see the numbers should be a little bit better for Lorenzo Cain. Chase Anderson, a guy we know that has always struggled with right-handed hitters. 374 WOBA allowed, 239 ISO, and a lot of hard contact as well at 43%. So the Brewers, again, not one of those teams I love stacking up here, but there are a few righties in that lineup I like here tonight. But Locane, especially on DraftKings, save you some money at just 3,200. All right, let's stay with the Brewers. We're not done yet. Said I didn't want to stack them, and I don't, but I want to go to their starting pitcher here with Freddie Peralta against Philadelphia. So Peralta been a strikeout monster, and we know that. That's the name of his game. He's always shown that. The question is, can he go deep enough into the games? But he's been giving us a little bit more of that this season. But the strikeouts, what we want to talk about here. 7 or more strikeouts in each of the last 5 starts. 6 or more strikeouts in every single start this season. And that strikeout prop tonight, right where you'd expect, right at that 7.5 number. So Vegas expecting some Ks here, and I am as well. Now let's talk ownership. We got a lot of high-end pitchers on the slate tonight. Right above him, guys like Shane Bieber, Walker Buehler, Yu Darvish. So I'm expecting those guys to eat up the majority of the ownership here. If you can pay a little bit more for a bigger name, I don't think a lot of people are going to be comfortable going Freddie Peralta. So it gives us a high upside guy in tournaments, and maybe we get an ownership discount there. So something we'll be keeping an eye on here throughout the day and see what those ownership projections look like. But the matchup here, pretty good. Philadelphia, a lot of strikeouts available here in this lineup. We're talking about a team strikes out at the 7th highest rate on the year against right-handed pitching at almost 26%. 6 of the projected hitters in this lineup, 22% or higher strikeout rate against right-handed hitters, and a very small sample here, but 40% K rate for Peralta against these Philadelphia hitters. So a lot of reasons I like Freddie Peralta after the strikeouts here. A little bit of a discount from those studs. Hopefully get a little bit of an ownership discount as well. But Freddie Peralta, easily my favorite pitcher here. I think he has another big night against the Philadelphia Phillies. All right, back to the bats here. Back to another big bopper, third baseman, Rafael Devers of the Red Sox. Now this one we'll have to keep an eye on as well. Missed yesterday, expecting him back in that lineup. We get the little red game time decision on DraftKings. That'll help keep some people away. But I think he's back in the lineup. If not, we will make the changes here in the comment section of the video on both Rotogrinders and YouTube, as well as on Twitter. So a lot of places that will make the adjustments here. But if Devers is in that lineup, I want him in my lineups. Big numbers against righties, ISO over 300, very big hard contact rate. This one really jumped off the page at over 53%, and that WOBA sitting at 371. Casey Mize, we've talked about him before. Big future, obviously. Very high draft pick for the Detroit Tigers, a team very much in rebuilding mode. And Mize has all the stuff to be an ace, but has not figured out left-handed hitting yet. 314 ISO allowed, gives up a 45% hard contact rate, and a WOBA north of 400 at 423. So Devers being the power bat here from the left side of the plate, that's who I want in this matchup with Casey Mize. I think the Red Sox very much a stackable team tonight, but Devers, the main bat I'm after here tonight against Detroit. All right, it's time to give you my favorite play of the night. But before we do that, we will continue our Beast of the Night contest. Very simple, very easy to play, free. And a thank you to you guys for hanging out at the bar. All you got to do, get in the comment section below the video and guess fantasy points on DraftKings for my highest scoring hitter of the 5. Don't need their name, just their fantasy points. The closest guess will win themselves a free 3-day pass to Rotogrinders Premium or a free Rotogrinders t-shirt. Let's wrap this baby up. Let's give you my favorite play. You know him as the Beast of the Night. All right, Beast time, and I promise you an old friend returning, maybe the most productive guy we've ever had when putting him in this Beast of the Night spot. Outfielder Nelson Cruz, tonight's Beast of the Night. So Cruz been very good to us over the years in this spot. A guy that we've locked in so many times, probably more than anybody in the video's history, maybe outside of Joey Votto back in the day when we first started. But Cruz has just been phenomenal against left-handed pitching. We know that. 523 WOBA over the last couple seasons, 375 ISO. Fastballs, we know he crushes the fastball.
going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. That's Dean 7904 if you want to get all tech. If you want me, it's 5:15 on the East Coast, 2:15 West Coast, 4:15 Tennessee time. So, of course, I'm just time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, the CEO of the Bats and the Blitz. It's one Derek Carty. What's going on, Carty?
Not much. How's it going?
It's going well, man. I think we're going to talk this baseball slate in a second. If you guys are tuning in looking for basketball, hit the old rewind button. You had the OGs were on their sons. There was no Noto, but it was a beer and I believe Chop talking some basketball. If you guys are playing basketball tonight, of course, you guys are premium members. Stick around for the premium show with Andy Means tonight, along with, I think, Dave Potts. Cheese is good, talking some baseball. Kevin Roth going to be all over the weather, giving the most up-to-date update as far as weather tonight. And I don't know how important it's going to be. To some degree, for sure. Maybe not as important as it was last night. Unfortunately, Carty, I actually played Matt Carpenter, and I wanted to earn my 0 points at a Matt Carpenter. I wanted him to go like 0 for 4. Don't give me like a postpone. Give me an 0 for 4, and like I want that 0 earned. Is all I'm saying. But,
yeah, even though the result was the same, it doesn't feel as satisfyingly tilting if he doesn't get up there and whiff a few times.
Yeah, although he's actually had a few good at bats this year. We'll give him that. I think he's hit a homer off of Strasburg and somebody else, maybe Kluber. A couple of good pitchers. I guess, is Kluber good now? Is he good again?
I don't think I'd go that far.
All right. Well, the Klubot went to the Best Buy, the Geek Squad. They turned him in and they made some fine tuning, and he's been better. We'll give him that. But hey, this is DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports. We don't care about Klubot. He's not playing tonight. We care about tonight and tonight only. Give me your overview as far as this slate, because I feel like, at least from a pitching perspective, well, I was going to say it's straightforward, but like there's a fork in the road, I guess. And that's a conversation we're going to have.
Yeah,
I know which direction I'm going. I'm not exactly sure where you're going, but it's gonna be a fun conversation. I just feel much better about the arms and the bats. But give me your overview before we kind of dive in and break down some pitchers.
Yeah. So I mean, we have lots of good plays on both the pitching and the hitting side. We have 4 aces going. We have a really good cheap pitcher going. Offense, we have a whole bunch of different options. We have 3 or 4 teams projecting over 5 runs. Just a lot to like on this slate, it feels like.
All right, let's dive. Oh, we have to talk about the super draft. We have a free roll for the people out there, giving away, I believe it's $2,500 in prizes, top 600 win. Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, is going to go ahead and drop the link in chat for you guys. You get 5 free entries. It's going to be capped at 3,000. So I presume there's still plenty of room to get in there. $2,500 in prizes. And again, top 600 win. You bink first place, you get $500 as well. That'll be a first prize. And if you guys haven't played over there, it's just a multiplier. You could literally pull the blender. You can play anybody you want. There's no salary cap. There's a multiplier that kind of makes things even, makes things fair. But we are looking at a pre-show, and there is a glitch in some of the numbers. And we're going to give you guys a couple of picks there at Super Draft as far as, either 1 times their fantasy points, up to 2 times their fantasy points. And Freddie Peralta, for whatever reason, has a 2x multiplier, and that just seems wrong. So he's a really, really strong play. If you look at and it's also a lineup HQ. If you guys are using the RG stuff, we now have Super Draft compatible, as well as Yahoo and FanDuel and DK. And if you it already does the math for you. No need for math, no need for a calculator. And Freddie Peralta is popping as the top Super Draft play of the day, is from a pitching perspective. But DK, Yahoo, we do live in the world of a salary cap, Carty. There are some elite aces going down tonight. Is it? It's you, Darvish. It's the Biebs, Shane Bieber, and I guess there's a gap after that, right? I think there's a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, there's also a gap after Darvish, but there's a gap after the other guys too. Like Darvish is far and away the best pitcher on this slate. It's not even close according to the bat. He's 5 points ahead of whoever you think number 2 is.
That's a bold proclamation.
It is.
Somebody is texting you, just said that's a hot take, man, because Bieber is striking out the world. He's got the longest leash. Like, he's going to throw 115 pitches. I understand it's not the greatest matchup from a strikeout perspective. Actually, for both matchups, Kansas City and Pittsburgh, I was looking at it today, according to the active rosters, and we actually can pull up the PitIQ and see the actual lineup as well, get more specific. But they're 3rd and 4th as far as striking out the least amount. But obviously, they're not facing the likes of Bieber. They're not facing the likes of Darvish. But I think that's a hot take. I'm probably just going to, stake in the lobster. I'm going to play them both. Why not on DK? And that sounds like good times to me. And DK just as long as they keep making it easy to get a pretty decent amount of bats and the best arms in the business, come at me. I'm going to start with my 70 points and go ahead and catch me with your bats. But all right, I'll bite. Sell me. Why is Darvish distinctly better than Shane Bieber tonight?
Yeah, it's not like Darvish is a better pitcher overall, but he's still a really, really good pitcher. And the matchup is just way better for him than it is for Bieber. Yeah, his leash isn't as long as Bieber's is, but the matchup is better. Like the Pirates are awful. The bat keeps going back and forth. Every day I look at like the bats, like power rankings of offenses. Number 30 is always the Pirates or the Rockies. It's like one of them. Today it is the Pirates. So the Pirates are today the worst offense in baseball. They're not an especially strikeout heavy offense, but they're like average. And actually, wow, holy crap. Today,
who's Hunter Owen? That's a person swinging wood today.
They're above average. Today, this is a very strikeout prone offense. They've gone from last year being the least strikeout heavy offenses, and I still think they kind of have that reputation a little bit, to being like average most days. And today, this is a 25% plus strikeout rate lineup. So it's very favorable for Darvish in that regard. It's a pitcher's umpire. And yeah, so I think that's just what it is. And it's a better park. I don't think a lot of people have realized it yet, but Kauffman Stadium has been super hitter friendly this year. It projects as a top 10 hitters park at this point. And so there is a big park gap between Bieber and Darvish as well.
Is that because by comparison, it's been colder in other places, and Kauffman hasn't changed a ton necessarily, but just by kind of sort of staying the same, it got more appealing as far as hitting? Does that make sense?
Yes. So, I mean, I think there's a few things that can happen. The weather should be neutralized. So this is before you consider weather, like just straight up park. It's become more hitter friendly. The theory I've seen floating around is that there's been like a scoreboard or something added that's kind of like changing the way the wind is interacting with the park or something like that. But regardless, even in a 1 month sample size, like the bat is still buying into it as a pretty solid hitters park at this point. And the Royals are a better offense than the Pirates. Like the Pirates are really, really bad. And the Royals are close to average, below average strikeouts. It's not like I'm saying Bieber's a bad player or anything. Like I think pairing the two is totally fine. But on one pitcher sites, it's clearly Darvish for me. Like he's just the better play. And especially, I mean, in GPPs, if he's going to be, looks like almost half the ownership, 75% lower owned, like he's just clearly the better play.
Well, the benefit, of course, like you said, the leash maybe not as long. There's a chance he gets pinch hit for like in the 6th inning or something like that. Goofy things like that can happen. But he also gets a pick on the pitcher as opposed to a DH. It's always worth pointing out, American League versus National League. And by the way, is this a thing? Am I going to make this a thing? I don't know. Are shadows a thing in San Diego at 5:10 local time? It's a weird start time in San Diego.
That is a weird start time. Shadows is something I've never studied. I never looked into, mostly because we just don't have a database of what the shadows look like at various times of day and times of year, because that's going to change with the way the sun is. And so I don't know a lot about shadows, except that theoretically they do make a difference. They should make a difference. We just really can't quantify it without better data.
I just know Madison Bumgarner, when he pitched his quote unquote no hitter, the first thing he did is he gave credit to the shadows. I don't know if you remember that in his post-game interview, he said, "I want to thank the shadows here." And was he in Atlanta? Where was he at? I don't recall. Maybe he was at home in Arizona no, I don't recall. Doesn't matter. But there were shadows. And there's a project for you in the off season. You don't have enough projects to tinker with the bat. You're always updating it and doing different things. Try to figure out some shadows. That's probably a big undertaking and maybe not even worth it. I don't know. You probably considered it and I guess trashed it.
Well, I mean, I would need somebody to go through and watch every single game and mark somehow systematically where the shadows are for every pitch of every game. If anyone wants to do that, get in touch with me. That's fine. I'll study the data, but I'm not taking the time to collect it.
Yeah. I mean, look, Darvish is spectacular. And you're right. I pulled up the plate IQ and like we were talking about how Pittsburgh on the season, they have not struck out a ton. This lineup collectively looking at 22.1%. Tom in a small sample size at 34%. Frazier's the only guy like real contact hitter in this team as far as facing righties. And I asked Gicardi, I don't know if you know Hunter Owen, I never heard of him. He's a 27-year-old person. He's going to be swinging tonight versus Darvish. And this is a guy, that in AAA and 138 plate appearances in 2019, struck out 32% of the time. Previously 28%. Steamer hasn't projected at 31% as far as striking out. This feels like a big positive to Yu Darvish, whoever this Hunter Owen, great name, but
it's a big positive. Wow. Yeah. The bat hasn't projected as a 35% underlying strikeout rate guy. That is one of the highest of any hitter in Major League Baseball.
Is this his first baseball game in the pros? I'm not aware of this person's name. I feel like that's a name I would remember. Yeah. All right. So we like Darvish a ton. And now the quandary on FanDuel, Darvish is a little bit cheaper than Bieber. I'm going to play both routes. I like them both. I think they're both spectacular. Do you want to entertain the concept of playing Darvish with Bieber versus Darvish and a cheapie that I think you want to talk about?
Yeah, and I think you can throw Buehler into the conversation too. Like, I don't think it's just default Bieber is number 2. The bat has him and Buehler basically the same right now, and Buehler is a little bit cheaper, so I don't have any problem with that. Buehler does usually have those kind of leash concerns because it's Dave Roberts and you don't know what Dave Roberts is going to do. But I think it's a little bit of a unique situation right now because they played a doubleheader yesterday. Kershaw came out after 1 inning. Bauer didn't make it through 5. And, so their bullpen got used quite a bit yesterday. They're having issues with their starting rotation right now to the point where they're talking about having Bauer pitch every 3 days. So like,
that's what he wants to do probably. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he's thrilled about it. But it would make sense that a guy like Buehler would get a little bit longer leash than normal with, the need to save the bullpen a little bit with all the issues going on. And the matchup for Buehler is honestly better than Bieber's. Bieber's the better pitcher, and so it's close. But this is a better matchup. Like, the Cubs are not really that much better than the Royals. They're like the same, but they're way more strikeout prone. And it's better weather here. It's 50 degrees. It's one of the coldest games of the day in Chicago. So, I think it's very close between Buehler and Bieber. As good as Bieber is, it's not like I'm denying that at all. But it's not like this is a plus matchup for him. This is like a slightly negative matchup.
I pulled up the Weather Edge here with Kevin Ross Weather Edge. And if you guys are premium members, you guys know how that works. I think you can get it a la carte if you want to, or you can get it with the MLB package or the all-encompassing, all the sports package. You can get yourself $10 off any of those. Devin, go ahead and drop the link. $10 off your first month. Go ahead and drop that link in chat. And in a 69, is 69 a nice sample for you as far as the game number? I don't know if that's enough, but yeah, 33.6% a hit as far as homers when games are played at similar weather. Minus 5.4% as far as runs, minus 4.9% as far as ERA. So I prefer a bigger sample, but I feel like that's something. And like you said, it's negative as far as the hitting environment. And these Cubs aren't very good. Like you said, there's some names there. And like Baez is an intimidating name, sure, but he also strikes out 30% of the time. Even Bryant will strike out plenty. So yeah, I think Buehler is kind of sort of somewhat interesting. I was just looking at their bullpen usage. Everybody pitched yesterday for the Dodgers with the exception of Scott Alexander. Monday they didn't play. Sunday they didn't play. So they were well rested going in. It looks like Saturday, maybe they had a doubleheader because everybody pitched on Saturday too, which is just weird. But yeah, the Dodgers the entire pen with the exception of Scott Alexander pitched yesterday, unless of course they called somebody else up. And I agree. I think Buehler is the interesting pivot. In the expert survey today, I don't know if it's a bold call or not, but I said Buehler is going to be the highest scoring pitcher tonight, which I think there's a route to that.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, just mix and match of those three. But if you want to if you want the key to get all the cheapies on DK as your SB2, sell me on, well, I guess it's just a pitcher throwing baseballs. It doesn't really matter who the person happens to be, but just as long as you're throwing baseballs against the Rangers, you're in play.
Yeah, so the guy doing that today is Lewis Thorpe, and he's 4K. He's the minimum possible price. He's not like an awesome pitcher, but he's not terrible either. He's a little below average, but the matchup is just so good. The Rangers are a bottom 5 offense in baseball. They're top 5 in terms of strikeout rate, and it's the second best pitching weather of the day here. It's like 48 degrees, and so this is theoretically a really good spot for any pitcher. And this guy is essentially free. There's also a pretty good pitcher's umpire, I should mention. So this does set up as a really good spot. the only concern really is how deep this guy is going to go. He's made one start so far this year. It was a few weeks ago. He threw 60 pitches, but it was like early in the year. Like he might have still been getting built up. It might have just been a weird circumstance. He's been at the alternate site since then. You know, theoretically, this guy is built up to throw as many pitches as they want him to throw. He's also Lewis Thorpe though. So how many pitches do they want him to throw? So like, we don't have a lot of clarity on what the leash is like. And that's the big thing here that you could just say, okay, I don't want to deal with that. You know, I'll just take Buehler or I'll take Bieber and that'll be that. But in GPPs, I think he's fantastic, especially at, what do we have him projected at here? 5% ownership for a guy who projects for, okay, so the bat's giving him 85 pitches. And he's projecting for 16 points, which is 4x his salary. Like you don't see that in baseball ever. That's not just like a good point per dollar play. He's a good raw play if he's allowed to pitch. So GPPs love him. And honestly, you can make the case in cash games.
Yeah, my counterpoint is opportunity cost. You say he's free, and he is technically free, but he also prevents me from not getting two of Bieber, Buehler, and Darvish. So that's sort of my issue with that. That's why I'm not going to go that route, but I totally get it. And I might entertain it in tournaments. And that's the other thing is the minor league, just started up like yesterday or a couple of days ago. And you're talking about the alternative site. And I used to always, and I'm sure you do the same thing. It's like, well, is this guy built up? When did he pitch last? Okay, threw 75 pitches here or 90 pitches here 5 days ago. And we don't know what he's done. He threw that one inning since that one start in the majors. But like, where is he at as far as throwing baseballs? How do you get that 85 pitch number? Where is that coming from? Just like a best guess?
It's a pure guess. The bat wanted to give him 95 without restrictions. And I'm like, I can't do that. That's too high. Like, let's just call it 85. Let's be conservative, but he still projects really well. And it still might be too aggressive. Like we don't know, but I am excited for minor leagues because we'll be able to get actual data on non-major league players again. And that's going to be a really good thing for a lot of reasons. And
minor league baseball hasn't been a thing for like 18 months or something like that. It's been it's stunted a lot of development, a lot of players, I'm sure. I guess the wild card on this slate is Freddie Peralta. Can he like sneak in the back door and be one of the top pitchers tonight? Because he certainly has the ability if he harnesses his control and he can rack up 10 plus Ks. We've seen that before as well. Tournaments only for me. Thoughts as far as Peralta, and I think you can bring Brady Singer into the conversation. He's like a perfectly fine major league pitcher, nothing spectacular, nothing sexy, but not an imposing matchup. A little bit, at least 5.5K on DK. So what else do you have for me as far as the pitchers? I think that's kind of sort of where it ends for me. I'm not going much deeper than that.
Yeah, Freddie Peralta is clearly behind Bieber, Darvish, Buehler, but the upside for him is the same. The matchup is not as good for him. He's going into this really tough Philly park. He's facing an underrated and pretty good Philly offense, but it is a strikeout heavy offense. And we know that he can strike out guys. So if he's not giving up long balls, he could go 5 or 6 innings here, strike out 10 or 12 guys. Like that's well within his range of outcomes. And he's going to come a lot lower owned than the other aces. So I think in GPPs, he's a really strong play. You mentioned Brady Singer. Again, he's nothing spectacular, but he's, a firmly average major league pitcher in an okay matchup, and he's underpriced for who he is and under projected in terms of ownership too. Like he's 8% owned right now, so he's a good play. And I think I'd throw Martin Perez into the mix too. The Tigers are really bad. The Tigers are really strikeout friendly. It's the best pitching weather of the day there. He should get some good offensive support. The Red Sox have one of the higher projected totals today. So I think Perez is totally fine also.
I'm not sure if Roth updated this or if this is from earlier today. He'll be updating it soon enough as far as the weather, but it is orange yellow. That last we're seeing as far as the weather in Boston. So be on alert for that. That update should be coming in soon if this is not the update. Usually he says this is the update, so I don't think this is. That's probably what it was earlier today. But yeah, Detroit is terrible. Texas is terrible. And that's kind of what you have on this slate is you have like, two of the better matchups, two of the shakier pitchers that are really cheap and you have decision points. But for me, I just arms are more predictive than bats is like one of my general rules. I always sort of lean on that. So, and I'll just figure the bats out. Give me the big boys. Give me the 70 points on DK, whatever it is, 65 at pitcher, and then we'll figure the bats out. We did that last night. Oh, somebody saved us actually. Who was it? Austin
Meadows,
Meadows.
probably.
There you
Yeah.
go. Shout out Austin Meadows because it was rough. It was a rough start for your boy. Summarize the arms. We'll talk about bats in a second.
Yeah, Darvish is the clear top arm. Bueller and Bieber, I think, are close enough where in GPPs you should be heavier on Bueller and lighter on Bieber. In cash, you can play either one, but again, I probably would lean Bueller, honestly. The matchup is better. The strikeouts are better. The umpire is better. Like everything is better matchup-wise for Bueller. He's just not as good as Bieber is. So I think at the discount, I think Bueller's totally fine. I think you can make a case for Lewis Thorpe in cash games, and I think you should absolutely have a bunch of him in GPPs, along with probably some Freddie Peralta, some Martin Perez, some Brady Singer.
All right, going to talk hitters in just a second. Do want to mention, say hello to chat. What up, chat? Feel free to like and subscribe, turn on notifications. That helps keep the lights on and lets us know we're doing a decent. And my ego is fragile, so I need to see the likes. If I don't see them, I get in solitary tear. Yeah. Hey, what we're doing for you guys is there's a super draft free roll. If you guys are just joining us, Devin's going to go ahead and drop the link. $2,500 in prizes. Top 600 win. You get 5 entries for free. $500 if you bank it. And I did take a peek. We talked about it again. You guys just joining us. Freddie Peralta's got a really weird multiplier where he's got a 2 multiplier. That's just odd. He looks like the strongest play specific to super draft. Also, Martin Perez is a 2 multiplier, which again seems too low. Bueller at 1.25, Bieber 1.05. You could still play them. Just makes it a little bit trickier. All right, give me in chat, ask some questions. Myself and Cardi will knock them out. Devin's going to compile them. He's going to join the show later regarding the slate. Overarching, like MLB DFS questions, we'll field those as well. That'll be good times. But also let us know, your thoughts as far as cash, tournaments, what site makes it much easier. Fire them off. Devin's going to be joining the show soon enough. As far as the hitters, before we talk at position by position, Cardi, give me your overview. Is there certain teams that are popping for you?
Yeah, so it's going to depend on the site. On FanDuel, the Braves are always like way too cheap. If you go Lewis Thorpe, it's easy to spend up on guys like Acuna and Freeman and Braves guys. But otherwise, you're probably going to have to deal with some value offenses, some Rays, some Brewers, some Nationals, guys, teams like that probably.
Yeah, I have too many Brewers, man, in the DK build. It's uncomfortable. I think one is too many. It's uncomfortable as far as Brewers, but I have several that are popping for me. We'll talk about momentarily. Catcher, are we spending up? Are we spending down? Looking for a cheapie? We're playing the guy on our stack. What are we doing as far as catcher?
Yeah, there's not a lot to spend up on, really. Real Muto's not in a good spot. Will Smith's not in a good spot. Gary Sanchez is fine in a GPP if you want to hunt for homers. Like I think a Yankee stack could be a little under the radar tonight. They're one of the only teams projecting over 5 runs. So Sanchez is fine in that regard. But I think saving money at catcher tonight makes a lot of sense, especially if you're going double aces. The highest I think you can probably go is Sean Murphy, and he's really good over on Super Draft. But even on DraftKings, like he's a good play, 4.3K, going to hit in the heart of the order with the platoon advantage against Robbie Ray with his wide platoon split. So I think Murphy's good, but I think going even cheaper is probably the right way to go. I think probably that 3K range is the sweet spot. I think either of the guys from the Nationals Braves game are the most appealing options here. William Contreras is hitting for the better team against the weaker pitcher in Eric Fetty, but he's hitting 7th and he's not as good. He doesn't have as much power as Yan Gomes does. And Gomes has the platoon advantage. He has the home field advantage. He's facing Max Fried, who everyone considers to be this really good pitcher, but he's kind of overrated. He's above average, borderline good, but he's definitely not great. And he's coming off the DL. So there might be some rust with him. He's getting the park downgrade, so I have no problem playing the cheaper Nats righties tonight. He's going to face 8 right-handed hitters for the Nats tonight. I think the Nats are, potentially one of the better stacks. So I like Yan Gomes quite a bit. And we talked about the cheap Brewers. The Brewers are getting that park upgrade going into Philly against Chase Anderson. So Luke Maile at 2.3K I think is fine.
Yeah, I'm probably going to land, like you said, if I'm going double barrel, probably either Gomes or Contreras. It's basically a coin toss. I don't have a strong feeling either way. I will say I like Mitch Garver on FanDuel where he's 2.7. I think that's too cheap. I should have learned how to pronounce this. This dude that was pitching in Korea, Yang. I don't know if I'm butchering his name or not, but he wasn't even good over there in the KBO. Like, I don't get why he's here. Congratulations to him for getting a contract, but I don't see it. And the Minnesota side just looks like they're going to overwhelm him. Assuming this game goes, there is again some weather issues in this, potentially. Keep an eye as far as what Roth has to say. But Garver, and I'm sure you saw last year, and I know you hate your lefty master conversation, but he absolutely shellacked. Like, it wasn't the biggest of samples, but he just hammered. Not last season. Last season, I think he was playing with a bit of an injury, but the previous season against lefties just absolutely walloped him. And he's like 2'7". You don't really play catchers on FanDuel necessarily, like you can, of course. And he's like 2'7".
You know who's cheap on FanDuel?
Who is it?
Gary Sanchez is almost 5K on DraftKings, but he's 2-2 on FanDuel. Like, honestly, I think you probably just play him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's so easy to make stuff work over there with the big boy pitcher, and there's still plenty of cheapies, and it kind of bleeds into it. They have the catcher first base position, and that kind of leads us into the first base conversation. And I think one of the ways to save money tonight is the CEO of Team Girth, man, Daniel Vogelbach, big Husky boy against Chase Anderson.
Yeah, no, he's a good play tonight. He projects as the Bats' top point per dollar guy. So Vogelbach, I think, is a good play. I think you can try to get up to Freddie Freeman. Again, if you play Lewis Thorpe, it's a lot easier to do this kind of thing. But I do think it's possible to do it with Darvish Buehler or maybe Darvish Bieber. Freeman is in a really good spot tonight. The Braves are the top raw point stack of the night. Eric Fetty is really bad. Eric Fetty also is extremely easy to steal on. I don't know if we're going to see Freddie Freeman stealing bases, but like in general, that's going to be a thing for Braves tonight. It's a nice park upgrade for them. He's got the platoon advantage. So I like Freddie quite a bit if you can afford it. Ryan Zimmerman on the other side of that game hitting third tonight. Like, I think he's fine enough.
He's been good this year.
Yeah. He's got a little bit left in the tank. Like, these older first basemen, like, they're boring, but like a lot of these guys can still hit the ball. So I have no problem playing guys like that. Jonathan Scope is first base only now on DraftKings, which is weird, but at 3.2K against Martin Perez in Fenway, like, that's fine. You want to take a shot on a home run from him? Go ahead.
The mouthwash, Jonathan Scope. Speaking of old first baseman, Joey Votto, I don't know if you saw, he's got a thumb. He hurt himself today. He's going to be out for at least a month or two. Yeah, and he was crushing too.
Joey Votto?
Yeah, Joey Votto's hurt. I don't know if you have like season-long stuff with Votto.
I have him in every season-long thing because he was the best value in season-long drafts of anybody, and that's brutal.
I'm sorry. Yeah, year 17 or something like that for him, and he's been crushing. He's been awesome, and
yeah, he's fantastic.
He's out for a while. I'm sorry. He was. Yeah. Well, this is why you played. Well, you played both DFS and season long. I'm at a best ball, and I have a Darno, so I can feel your pain. All right. Anything else? Oh, I wanted to mention this little blurb as far as Vogelbach. One reason why I like him, besides being the CEO, is that Philadelphia, their bullpen, right? They have just one lefty in their entire bullpen. Jojo Ramirez, he threw 23 pitches yesterday. He didn't pitch on Monday, but he pitched on Sunday. 2 out of the last 3 days, 23 pitches yesterday. I'm not saying he's not going to pitch, but I think the chances of him pitching are probably a little less likely, which means it's a little less likely we get the hook for Vogelbach and he turns into like Keston Hiura. Maybe he comes out for like defensive purposes. Like, I suppose that's possible too, but that's only if they're ahead, I guess. So, yeah, I'm always concerned with the hook as far as my guy getting pitch hit for, but I think the chances of him getting pinch hit for today is a little less diminished. Just a thought process there. Anything else at first, or you want to jump to second base?
I think Bowers is fine. Like, Cleveland stacks could be kind of interesting. Mike Ford in your Yankee stacks is a good way to get some cheap exposure there. Yeah, I think that's good.
So second base on DK, I did want to point out, this is DK specific, and the 2K guys are much more important there as opposed to FanDuel. Andy Ibanez is 2K, and he's going to be facing the much hyped Lewis Thorpe.
Much hyped.
But he had a season a year ago. What is it? In 2019, 30 was it 20 or 30 homers and like 6 or 7 stolen bases. I understand the minors and the majors, 2 different things, but 2K, and if it makes everything work for me, I'm okay playing Andy Ibanez. Sure, why not?
Yeah, he's clearly the best point per dollar guy here. I don't think he's necessary because DraftKings still were a month into the season and they still have not sharpened up their pricing. Like, get on top of that, please, guys.
They still haven't figured out how to do Ohtani either. So get on top of that as well. Like, they can't figure out when to have him as a pitcher, when to have him as a hitter. But go ahead, I digress.
Yeah. Brandon Lau though. Brandon Lau is 3.9K tonight. He's an amazing hitter, probably one of the top 50 in baseball. Hitting leadoff with the platoon advantage, big park upgrade, especially for lefty power. This is a good lefty power park. He's facing Ohtani, who's really good, but Ohtani walks guys. Ohtani can give up home runs. Ohtani can get blown up. So Brandon Lau is just too cheap for everything else going on in this. And it's the best hitting weather of the day. It's 72 degrees. We have a little bit of wind blowing out to dead center field. So I like Brandon Lau quite a bit. I think Kike Hernandez is in a good spot too, against Casey Mize at home in Fenway. Cesar Hernandez in your Cleveland stacks. I think he's a good value.
Yeah. Detroit, Mize, who knows how deep he goes. They're pretty heavy as far as lefties in their bullpen. I know people love TK versus lefties. He's probably going to face one at some point later on in the game. By the way, that Pittsburgh-San Diego game, JT Brubaker is in a game that is a 6.5 total. I know it's because mostly Darvish, but it's also worth noting. You see the San Diego lineup today. Tommy Pham is leading off, then Cronenworth, no Machado. I think there's 2 of their key pieces are not playing today. We have Tatis back, but there's somebody else that's missing, and I can't quite eyeball it and figure it out. But the San Diego lineup is weaker, and Yark Darvish is facing Brubaker. Pham is he super cheap? Is he 2.7? Is that correct?
He's always really cheap. Yeah, he's probably about that. But yeah, actually, Brubaker projects kind of decently point per dollar wise, so you can throw him in your GPP pool probably.
And that's not even including the potential shadows, which may or may not be a thing.
The shadows, yeah, exactly.
Hot corner, third base. What do you have for me?
Third base. Let's take a look. So, if you can get up to like Jose Ramirez or Rafael Devers, they're the clear 2 best options today. They're both really good, but they're both really expensive. So you definitely don't have to do that in cash games. But Alex Bregman, a little bit cheaper. I think Houston is an offense that projects really well tonight. Price is a little high, especially on DraftKings, could keep the ownership down a little bit. And then you have, I think, cheaper guys. Like on FanDuel, Austin Riley is 2.4K, and we really like the Braves tonight, and he's hitting 5th, and he's just way too cheap. On DraftKings, on the other side of this game, we have Starlin Castro hitting cleanup for the Nationals with the platoon advantage, and he's 2.9K. And he's another one of these guys in that kind of, Joey Votto, Brandon Belt, kind of Ryan Zimmerman mold, where like he's old and boring, but he can still hit. Like he's still a league average hitter, and the matchup and price dictate him being a good play here. So I really do like Starlin quite a bit. If you're doing like a Rays stack, because their prices are really good today, like Yandy Diaz is 3K. I think he's fine. If you're doing the Brewer stack, Travis Shaw at 3.6 is totally fine. And it's a little weird and off the board, but I don't mind a Royals mini stack against Bieber with how chalky he's going to be and with how cheap these Royals are. Like you don't have to get like too weird with it, but like play their better hitters are all free. You play like Hunter Dozier, Andrew Benintendi, Ryan O'Hearn stack. You're going to spend like $3K on average for them, and you can afford a better stack. You can afford, 2 other aces. Like there's a lot of ways you can do that and get a little leverage, I think.
Chapman is 3K on FanDuel. Donaldson is 3.1K on FanDuel. Which one do you prefer?
I prefer Austin Riley, but
yeah, that's I was kind of building back and forth, and like I had a couple 2v2s, and I could have went the Riley route as well, but I'm not exactly sure where I'm at, and I'm kind of coin tossing at this point. By the way, worth mentioning, no Kirilloff. He's on the IL for Minnesota. He missed yesterday, and who's back in our lives? Nobody's going to play because he's batting 8th at home, and he's the first baseman. It's Miguel Sano. I know we're going backwards, but I'm just thinking Sano's a really interesting tournament play that like just nobody's going to be on. People want to see it. Like, oh, we forgot this. Let's see if he still has it, right? And he's going to bang out 2 homers, and it's too late.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people are really on the Twins tonight. I think not as much on that boat, but they're a good offense, and obviously Sano has power.
You've heard of Byron Buxton, right? He is incredible. I was looking at the his Statcast data. The speed is off the charts. He's hitting the ball ridiculously hard. Just stay healthy, man. He's so incredible. We were finally. And this is somebody who's been touted for, I'm sure like 5, 6, 7 years. It seems like people have been hyping up Buxton, and we're finally starting to see what he can do. The price, of course, reflects that. But I want to. He's one of my favorite plays in the slate that I'm going to have a hard time getting to, but I want to get some.
Yeah, I won't have too much trouble missing out on him at the price. But
All
I mean,
right.
it's a month, Dean. Small sample size alert.
Oh,
Also,
come
like,
on.
I don't think this is like the best spot for them. Like this Yang guy is coming out of the bullpen. He's not going to go that deep. You're going to get a bunch of bullpen arms in this game, and it's really good pitching weather. So I don't know. I'm not super on the Twins.
Start loading up some questions. If you guys think Cardi's wrong, if you guys like Buxton, feel free to ask some Buxton questions. Sure, why not? Yeah, Devin's going to be compiling them, joining the show momentarily. I got a couple more positions to knock out before we do that. What do you have for me as far as shortstop?
Yeah, so shortstop, I think paying up a little bit. You don't have to go all the way up to like 6.2 Fernando Tatis. You can in GPPs, but that's too expensive for a matchup that's not awesome. But Trey Turner at 4.7K is really underpriced. I've mentioned a bunch of these nationals. They're just all underpriced tonight, probably because it's freed, but it's limited, potentially rusty freed in a good hitter's park, and they're just all too cheap. So I like Turner a lot. I don't really think there's anywhere else you have to look, at least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you can play Dansby Swanson because we like the Braves. Gleyber Torres is always too cheap on FanDuel. Even Elvis Andrus, I think, is a pretty solid play over there. On DraftKings, if you want to save money, like Andrus is in play there. Willy Adames for the Rays is in play. Andres Jimenez for Cleveland, I think, is a fine, cheap way to round out that stack. But getting up to Turner is definitely what I think is preferable.
On FanDuel, I know we don't love the park today necessarily, but Seager is better than a 3.5 player. That's just too cheap.
3.5 on FanDuel is like 6K on DraftKings.
But still, I mean, you have the money. There's no bonus for like hoarding 2K. You don't get it. Oh, here's an extra 3 points to start with.
Yeah.
I mean, 3.5 is like that seems too cheap. I mean, everything's too cheap and it's all relative, obviously. But I have a lineup with Beaver or Darvish, whichever route I go, and I can get Seager really easily, basically.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Seager. I just don't think the matchup is anything special. Like good pitching weather, Alzolay is pretty good. And doesn't go super deep, so you get more bullpen behind him. He's fine though. 3.5 is a good enough price.
And he's getting his 5 ABs, man. The Dodgers they're gonna hit well enough. He's on the road. He gets batting second. I think he gets 5 ABs. That extra at bat is precious, man. That's when they take it home. Sometimes we'll see. Hey, outfield, knock it out.
Yeah, outfield always a ton to like. If you can get up to Mr. Ronald Acuna, he's really good at hitting baseballs. On FanDuel, it is incredibly easy to get up to him. You really need to try to make every effort to make that happen. It's not hard. On DraftKings, it is hard. Even playing Thorpe, you can do it, but it's not like a guarantee thing. But if you can get there, that is one of the appealing parts of playing a guy like Lewis Thorpe. You can get up to Acuna if you want to. Austin Meadows, you mentioned, bailed you out last night. I know the bat was really high on him. The bat's really high on Meadows in general. He's just a way better hitter than what he's been priced at all year. And the surface numbers up until last night really hadn't been there, but all the peripherals are fantastic. The history is fantastic. And so he's still just way too cheap at 3.4K. Hits high in a good lineup, a really good lineup, nice park upgrade for power. There's no reason not to play Meadows in cash tonight. Avisel Garcia is another guy who surface numbers don't quite match the peripherals, but the peripherals are good. The power is there. He's going into a really good power park against this, bad reverse splits pitcher. He's 3K. He's hitting in the middle of the lineup. Avisel is a very, very strong value play tonight. Who else do we have? Kevin Kiermaier in the same lineup as Meadows. I think he's in play. Lorenzo Cain in the same lineup as Avisel. I think he's in play. I mentioned kind of that really off the board, mini Royals thing. Andrew Benintendi is too cheap, I think, by a little bit. Wouldn't play him in cash, but I don't have any problem doing it in GPPs. Who else are we looking at? Tommy Pham, leading off, you mentioned 2.7K. He's fine. Harold Ramirez, all these Cleveland bats are really cheap. He's fine. So yeah, I think that's outfield.
I think Stanton should be a little bit more 4.7K on DK. And I know hot and cold streaks aren't a thing, or if they are a thing, it's impossible to quantify because you never really know when they start, when they stop until it's too late. So what does it matter? But if you watch Stanton hit, he's just one of those guys. You watch him every day. You can see when he's quote unquote locked in and not locked in. Dude is locked in right now. just hitting rockets every single day. Before we talk to Devin, what's your general take on that Houston Yankee game? Because I feel like that's the game that I don't have a good read on. And it's got a pretty big total, nice ballpark. The weather's not great. Montgomery, not afraid of. Garcia's fine. I don't know what to do with that game. I'm a little flustered on it.
Yeah, so they're a little overpriced, I think, this whole game. Maybe not so much the Houston side, but I like that game. That game projects well. The Yankees are, I think, one of the only 3 teams that project for over 5 runs in the bat. It's them, it's Atlanta, and it's Boston. And Houston, I think, is like 4th or 5th. So it's a good game to target for offense. We should see some offense there. It's going to skew a little towards home runs. There's some variance because it's Yankee Stadium. That's just kind of how it plays. But, especially if we think those stacks are going to be a little overlooked tonight, I do think having some exposure there is a good idea.
Give me a couple of your favorite stacks, and then we'll bring Devin on.
Yeah, so obviously I like the Braves and I like the Nationals. I think the Rays are really good. I think for off the board stuff, a little more off the board, like the Brewers, I think are good. I think the Indians are kind of good. And I think that really, really kind of gross, super sneaky mini Royal stack is interesting.
Fair enough. Devin, what's up? You with us?
I am just right in time to get a comment from Jason in chat. I don't know what to do with that thing. I'm a little flustered. Was a quote.
Is that my official
I'm
quote?
pretty sure that was an official quote. Yeah.
I've used that quote for many things throughout my life, for the record, if you want to get all technical. But yeah.
We're going to need to start making some T-shirts.
Specific to the slate. I don't know what to do. I mean, look, it's okay to be honest. I'm not really sure. And, it's baseball. Baseball things can happen. But I don't have a good read on it. And I know there's good baseball players playing. And as of right now, I don't have a ton of it. And I feel like that might be a mistake. Otherwise, what else, Jeff, for us, Devin?
A bunch of questions all saved up. Nice and tidy. Let's start with Anthony. Well, how are we going to split this up? Which one are you? DK, FanDuel, Cash, GPP?
What do you want, Carter? You can get it. You can answer anything you like.
All right.
Just ask Cardi, and I'll chime in if I feel
Sounds
like it's
good.
necessary.
Did we touched
I
on
don't
it?
feel like answering, and I'll pass it off to Dean. How's
There
that?
you go. How about that? We'll start with Anthony. He wanted to know about Ibanez. I think we touched on him a good bit, but maybe if some people tuned in late.
He's a great point per dollar play at 2K, but he's just unnecessary because the sites just are still so inefficiently priced. Like everybody's underpriced.
And a quick shout out to John Andy Means, no hitting the Mariners. I don't know if you guys were watching that. Just
it officially happened. It's over.
I think he's at 40 DK points currently. Just
wow,
awesome stuff.
John Means represent.
GR Sauce wants to know what's with the Beebs in the bat today.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it at the top of the show. I think people are surprised that Bieber isn't projected as the top guy of the day, and that Darvish projects so much higher. But it's because Darvish is really good too, and his matchup is just way better. Bieber's actually in a slightly negative matchup, all things considered. Like, Kauffman Stadium is a sneaky good hitter's park. The Royals are like an average offense. They're below average for strikeouts. And Darvish has everything else working in his favor. Like, he's facing the worst offense in baseball that is actually rolling out an extremely strikeout heavy version of their lineup today. He's got a pitcher's umpire. He's got better weather. Really, I think it's the second best pitching weather of the day last I looked. We have the shadow narrative going on with him. So, I mean, it's not that the bat dislikes Bieber. The bat thinks Bieber is the second best pitcher in baseball. It's a matchup thing. It's a matchup and I guess to a lesser extent, a price thing.
Dean, you love double barreling. Are you doing that on today's slate?
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah. Well, no, I should in my main lineups. Yes, I will absolutely make some goofy stuff just to get like a different shuffle as far as some sticks. But yeah, on DK, and like you're talking about the Ibanez character, and you say he's not necessary. Like for me, if I'm double barreling, he's probably going to be necessary.
All those bottom of the barrels.
It's like a 5v5. It's like that fork in the road. It completely changes the build of your lineup, and I don't know which one is correct, which one's not, but I just feel much better. Yeah, again, give me that quote unquote floor. And I know, Cardi, you probably don't like the concept of a floor when it comes to pitchers, but I hate
the concept of floor in general because, like, I don't know. For me, it's just a little bit too risk averse. Like DFS isn't actually daily. It's over the course of a whole season. So who cares if I take on a little more risk? It's going to even out. Like play the best plays. That's my philosophy.
So the best plays are Bieber and Darvish and Bieber. And wait, no, and
you can
Bueller.
make a case that Lewis Thorpe is in that mix. I'm not saying he's a must play, but like when you consider price, he is on the same level as them.
So we've touched on some of the top ones and Thorpe as well. So there was a lot of people showed up late for the pitcher breakdown. Do you maybe want to give your top 3 favorite pitchers?
I think it's clearly Darvish 1, Bieber and Bueller, 2, 3, kind of splitting hairs. And I think Thorpe is really interesting.
I think Thorpe's worth
definitely
it.
for GPPs.
Definitely some Thorpe questions in there. So glad we got to touch on that one.
I feel better at Singer at 5.5 than Thorpe at 4K for the record. I mean, again, and I know you said you'd play him too. But,
I mean, I do need to say again, I talked about it at the top of the show, but like I have to say it again with Thorpe. This is not a safe play by any stretch of the imagination. It is a price and matchup play. The matchup is fantastic. The price is as good as you can possibly get. And he's not an awful pitcher. He's not a good pitcher. He's a below average pitcher, but he's not like, he's not horrendous. The big concern is how deep they're going to let him go. We have no idea about his leash. The volume projection is 100% a guess. Theoretically, he's been pitching at the alternate site and he's stretched out enough to pitch however deep they want him to go. But they might just say, you know what, we don't trust him to pitch 5 or 6 innings. We're going to pull him after 3. And that's well within his range of outcomes. So if you play him, consider that is a possibility. But in GPPs, there's the chance that he goes 6 innings and puts up 25 points. Like that's also in the range of outcomes.
That's
4K.
my biggest concern for the record. I just don't know. I think he might leave after 3 or 4 innings, and that's that.
Right.
So
we're talking about
Potential.
pitchers with a short leash. Nate was wondering, DK tournaments, do you think Fried can get there in limited pitches? And we saw last week, I think Kopech was the pitcher that was supposed to be on a pitch count, but ended up having a pretty stellar game.
No, I think Fried's an awful play. I think having any Fried is a horrible process mistake tonight in any format. First, the matchup's not good. And second, they're saying that they're going to take it inning to inning with him, but physically he could go 80 pitches if they want him to. 80 pitches really isn't that much. He would have to be highly efficient to really be worth it. And it's not a good probability play.
I do like the conversation of taking advantage of people's assumptions, and pitch count could be one of those things. Mustafa would like to know FanDuel tournament, Seager or Devers?
I like Devers more, but if you have correlation with either of them, go with that.
COD is God would like to know, are there any games we're avoiding because of weather?
stay tuned for Roth on that. Yeah, I'm waiting to see what Roth has to say.
Still haven't got an update?
Yeah, there's a couple games, like that Minnesota game potentially could be one. The Boston game potentially could be one. And, I'm not going to pretend to be a meteorologist. I don't know. And I'll just lean on what Roth has to say. But there's potentially some issues there. We'll see. Stay tuned.
All right. Eric was wanting to know, should we stack on Super Draft? Is it more or less important than DK? And I actually tweeted Grant. He said it is probably more. He also told me to tell Dean to suck it. So. Oh.
It's funny. I would have said it's less likely to stack because, you're taking advantage of multipliers and theoretically, and I've not played on Super Draft yet. I'm going to start playing soon. I'm in a state where I can play now. But in my head, I would take advantage of a lot of the multipliers. And I don't know if it's like, well, this team has just got great multipliers based on matchup. I can't speak to that. But lean on Grant. Grant's, despite the fact he told me to suck it, I will compliment him and tell him that he's actually very good at Super Draft. Listen to what he has to say.
There you go. ZZTV wants to know best single entry GPP strategy for tonight.
I mean, I'm double barreling the Cardi. I'm in the single entry, the 122 or whatever on DK, and 99% chance. I have two of the big studs, and I'm figuring it out, and that's that. But I think that's what everybody else will be doing too, maybe.
Yeah, so that's why. Yeah, that's why I think for me, I think take one of the non-Bieber studs, play Thorpe, and then play an expensive lower owned offense. I think that makes a lot of sense in GPPs tonight.
Let me throw something against the wall here, see if it sticks. Thorpe and Singer pay up at bats?
That might be a little too off the wall. I don't even know. Like, what do you have to? Is there enough to even spend on?
That's a good question.
The bats just aren't good enough. This isn't like a core slate where we're looking at two teams, the 6.5 and a 7 total. I don't think there's any. There's no place that's really popping. Like, this is an incredible. Like, Acuna's great, but this is not like an amazing Acuna spot in my opinion.
It's not. But
think
I think
yeah.
I think one of those guys, Thorpe or Singer, with one of Darvish, Bueller, Peralta, and then you can still get an expensive offense with them.
putting on my Kevin Roth hat, I believe that's a release the hounds play. But we're up to the end of the show, so Dean, you want to take us home?
Yeah, and one more time, I'll tell the people about go ahead and drop the link in chat for as far as the Super Draft contest that's going down. You get yourself 5 free entries, $2,500 prize pool. It's a free roll up to $600. I think it's $500. No, top 600 win. $500 if you bink it. 3,000 total entries, and again, you get 5. So I imagine there's still room. Everybody get in there. And again, we have the RG content. We now support Super Draft, as well as DK, as well as FanDuel, as well as Yahoo, as far as our Atlanta HQ tool. And how do you get that? You get $10 off your first month. We'll go ahead and drop a link in chat for you guys for that as well. If you are premium members, stay tuned because we got Crunch Time coming up. It's a dual sport Crunch Time. You got one Andy Means talking basketball. You got Dave Potts, 2-time millionaire winner. Jesus good, talking some baseball, taking you guys right up the lock. And maybe most importantly tonight, is Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist, telling you what's going down weather-wise.
Means
That
did it.
said,
He did it.
What?
He did it. Book it.
Doesn't just threw a no-hitter.
Andy Means, Andy Means is going to take credit for this in
Oh
Crunch
yeah.
Time, right? He's
I
gonna be
can't
beating
wait to
Dean
tell him about it.
If there's another guy named Dean, I wouldn't just assume like, oh, let me take that guy's shine. Anyways, hey, hit like button, hit subscribe, do turn on notifications, all that good stuff. We appreciate it. Get the bat from Derek Carty. He knows what he's talking about as well. That was Carty. That was Devin. This was baseball. I was Dean. Good luck tonight. We're out of here. Holler!